What's going on, guys? It's your boy Cash, and we are here to do the M.F.O on Kenna, Bridge of Spirits. Now, of course, we're going to start off with the non-spoiler section of the game, just kind of talking about the overall game, and then we're going to go into the spoiler-doiler section, talking about, you know, deeper into the story and things of that nature. Normally, that's what I use the spoiler section to kind of rag on the story. But not much to rag about. There are some gripes that I have, so let's go on to just the graphics. Duh, the graphics are good. It does feel like you're playing a Pixar movie, even when I'm rendering the game and I'm like, wow, the game still looks pretty good. Even when it switched from gameplay to cutscene, it's pretty seamless. There's not much like huge change. You can definitely tell that there's a difference. It's not like seamless, but it's really close to it, and you got to give it kudos for that. The environment is nice. The what do they call it? Like the facial motion stuff is really nice. So I definitely have to give kudos to the game developers for that. And it's also a nice price. I've said this before, the game is not a AAA title. It's a nicely priced game for a, I would still say yes, the game is relatively short, but I think, and I mentioned this at the end of my last episode, is that the game is super short. If you play it on an easier mode, you will fly through the game on an easier mode, just for the simple fact that on the simpler difficulties, it's very easy to do that. And I just want to just show that to you guys real quick, so we're all on the same page here. So I mentioned this at the end of my last video, but this is the M.F.O. So playing on these two difficulties, I think that for some people will make the game seem very easy. It will make it very, very easy to go through, because this one, you get raw abilities by just doing absolutely nothing passively, and when you take damage, right? So, and you're gonna not take as much damage as well, right? They don't deal too much damage to you. You're gonna get mana, whatever, however you want to say it, right? Then this one, you do get it when they hit you. Enemies are aggressive. Now, I played the game on Expert Spirit Guide. In order to get mastered, you have to beat the game, I think, at least once, or maybe beat Expert Spirit Guide to do it. So specifically, playing on this difficulty, and I always say playing on a harder difficulty, I think makes the game make more sense, and it doesn't allow you just to fly through it. Yes, you still can do it. I think that if you have really good strategy, you understand whatever build you're going, and yes, I understand that there's not too much on the whole upgrade system of things like that. So I do see what people complain about that like it's not too in depth. I could show it to you because literally you have access and can see the whole entire upgrade system as soon as you get the game. And some games do that, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they hide it from you to make it seem like you don't know how far you can go, but this game was pretty transparent with it. It's not like it's trying to like trick you or anything like that. So that's one thing that I do have to say. I do want to make a distinction of people that are looking at reviews of this game, to just know that unless that person tells you what level they reviewed the game on, that they would have flew through the game, and the game could have been like a very short amount of experience, especially if you're specifically trying to fly through the game just to see the story. You're not doing any extra content. There's a ton of extra stuff that you can do, and I do want to show that, right? I can actually show that, and I do want to say that, and this is not really a spoiler, at least I don't think it is. Even where I'm at right now, you have no idea where I'm at. This is the upgrade tree. So as you can see, it's very small. I heard some complaints about this. I find this perfectly okay. And I think that as far as it goes, I think that literally it doesn't need to be any longer than that, based on how the game is, based on the strategies that you have to implement. I think I don't know if this is the first game, but I think for the game that they made, I think this is perfectly fine. I think that they can expand upon this if it can 2 or another game, and they can really utilize this and expand on it. There's already been plenty of games that make way more stuff, and then you only use none of it. And I mean that seriously. Like, some games, they have so many options, which I do respect options, but they made sure that each thing that was introduced into the game was useful. This was useful. When you get the shield, it was useful. When you get the arrow, it was useful. When you get a dash, it's useful. When you get a bomb, it's useful, and it's used for specific things that you have to fight in the game. I think that was crafted correctly, and it was done right. And in other games, they'll be like, hey, you can also do this, and it's like, why do I need to do that? I do somewhat appreciate it, but I do hope that they can also, in the next time, add more stuff that is useful, but make this more expansive. Now, I'm just gonna not let you see the upper left, because it says something. I don't want you guys to know what the heck that means, because it's the non-spoiler section. But I just want you to Taro was the name of the other guy. I could not figure this guy's name out. So if you guys just look at the village, see all the village mail. I got all the village mail. There's flower shrines, cursed chests, hats, rot to get. I'm at 60. I ended the game with 68 rots, and there's still a lot more to get. I'm not even at the max level of rot. And just to like move around, right? So these little things, and you can see like they had a lot of, look, Taro's tree. I didn't get all the rot tats and shrines in this area, so there's a lot of extra stuff to do. I personally would not feel like doing all this stuff. A completionist would. I don't know what you would get out of completing this game. I hope that they do give something for those people, because this game is kind of fun to go do and unlock puzzles. I do spend a decent amount of time during my playthrough doing some puzzles because they pop up. I guess these are some of the ones that I happen to miss, but it does extend the gameplay. It does extend the playthrough. If you were, like I said, barreling through it, then you will fly through the game. There's so much additional stuff that you legitimately don't need to do. So I think that that is a, you know, a cool optional thing that you could do. Another thing that I wanted to mention is the actual rot that you get. I do like that they, you know, based on what you do, you can actually give them certain hats, masks that you get along the way. So it's a really cool feature. I do think that it's not to be slept on. You can also, at any time that you feel like it, press the right on the D-pad, and you can actually hang out and chill with them. You know, sneeze, I'll chick sneeze, and you can just sit down and just have a good time with them and play with them and stuff like that. So I think that that's a pretty cool feature as well. So they had a lot of weird stuff, cool stuff, hard stuff. So I think that that needs to be taken in consideration. I don't think the game is too short, and for the reasons that I just said, I think it's really weird to hear that some people think the game was too short. I think the game was the right amount of length. I think it was once you got all your abilities, the game feels like, okay, I know how to use everything. Now I got to put it all together, and then the game pretty much ends. I think that that's kind of like a good thing. Like, again, you don't need to give people 100 abilities, 10,000 this, 5 billion of this, especially in a more cinematic game. I think that they did the right thing here. I think that they didn't try to overwhelm you with nonsense just to get, like, I don't know, cookie points, cool points. I think that they did everything perfectly fine. So kudos to them. But in order for me to really get into the deep dive into the game, I think I do have to kind of talk about some of the story points of the game, and still I have high praises. So if you guys haven't, you can feel free to watch. I'll link the playlist at this point, but we got to go into the spoiler section now. The spoiler aspect of it is, I think that the story was pretty damn good. Now what I'm saying about that is that we have Taro, Adira, and Toshi are your main characters that you're going after and trying to pretty much free them, right? You're trying to free them up. Now, when you're trying to free them up, you learn that the 3 reasons why these guys are, I guess, the toughest spirits, because plenty of other people died, plenty of other people were spared, but their spirits really stuck to it. I really liked, okay, so let's just go with Taro. He's the first one you encounter, right? So he didn't want to leave because he could not find his 2 brothers, right? His two, I think, brothers and sisters, like, he couldn't find them. So he stuck around too long. He wanted to take care of them. He ends up dying in the explosion. So his story was okay, and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, you know, that makes sense. Then they kind of upped the ante with Adira. Adira's one I think might still be the best one of them all. I almost should have said her for last, because she actually has a friend, Hannah. Hannah leaves to go find water, supplies, because the village is dying. That's part of the whole thing. Pretty much the village is dying, and they didn't leave on all of a sudden the corruption happens, which is Toshi's fault. But actually, no, it's not. It's not Toshi's fault. It's the village is actually dying. There's no corruption as of yet. There's just a famine. There's a famine there, and they stay there for some reason. But Hannah leaves to go try to find stuff, which I think most of them should have did. They should have started sending scouts to look for better land, a new place to move. But Hannah does not return. So what does Adira do? She takes the village heart and all this other nonsense and makes this big watchtower that's pretty much like a big searchlight that they use for like boats, which Hannah did leave on a boat so that she could find her way back. She thought she was lost. That was actually pretty, like, I feel like I didn't cry, but it was definitely the most tear-jerky thing I think that they had, because it was just like, dang, that is actually really, really, I think maybe if they weren't friends, if they were maybe a couple, I think it would have hit me a little bit harder, like something like that. But just being friends, even maybe brother, sister, double sister, something like that, they just were friends, so it didn't hit as hard to me. But it was that was very endearing. I thought that was very cool that she pretty much crafted a watchtower so that our friend can find her way back to her back to the village. They also didn't, and that would be my gripe. Let me speak on Toshi a little bit, but Toshi pretty much was trying to fix the thing. He didn't want to leave. The older elder guy was like, yo, bro, we gotta leave. And he's like, no, instead of leaving, let me go fight the ancient sacred beast. He kills it, causes the explosion that kills pretty much everyone else. The corruption starts to spread because there's no rot god there. The ending there, it's like, it looks like we gathered all these rots together. They become the rot god again, and I think starts to heal the land. You don't see the land being healed, but I think you assume that you are now healing the land. So I feel like the ending was kind of whack. I would have preferred it to be more solid, a full circle. Leaving things open-ended is not that bad, but I feel like that wasn't one of the open endings that I kind of wanted. The second gripe is going to be some of the missing pieces in the story. One of the missing pieces in the story is Kenna. Kenna is she's just spoken that she's here to try to find her dad. Her dad had died. They didn't specify, at least I do not remember, on how exactly he dies. He's just a spirit guide that was pretty good, and he passed the staff on to her. But they also show that she was given the staff, or had the staff, when she was much younger. She looks to be at least 5 years older from the little flashback that they showed. So I don't know. It just seemed like there was a little bit light on Kenna, and I think that would have been nice for them to do a little bit more backstory on her, to give you more of a connection to her. But I think that was intentional, to give you more of a connection to the characters that she's interacting with. I think that was a conscious decision. I think that was a okay decision, but then near the end, when she resolves the issue of the village, you're back with Kenna, and then you're like, well, what do we do? What do we do? And I usually, when you focus the story around the main character, when you're at the end, usually you resolve something that the main character is doing, you feel more fulfilled. I think since we were just doing quests for other people, you fulfilled when they're there, but once they're gone, I feel like you feel a little bit empty inside. I think that's one of the things. Another thing that I did find weird with the story implementing is the actual aspect of the famine. So they pretty much are saying that these people lived in the forest, that the forest is now losing its luster. It's like it's running out, and I need to know whether or not, like, did he make I guess that many people died, they still chose to stay there. I'm assuming that's what they were saying, but it just seems like a weird decision to do that. It just seems like most civilizations move on when things like that happen. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my social studies is off, and maybe people just literally, when there's no food. I always thought that like herds of people, a group of people, usually when there's no food, nothing's happening, they move on. I would assume that people would die because they would think that, oh no, don't worry guys, the deer will return, the cycle of life will return. And I think that the smarter people will up and leave and try to find new civilization and pack up somewhere else. Maybe I just didn't get that. They are showing that it's from an older time, so maybe a later group of civilized people would have made that decision, and maybe they didn't make it in this game. But I did think that was kind of weird. And they kind of said that there was old powers, that they were talking about, that there was old powers that were in place that we shouldn't be messing with. There's tools that we shouldn't be messing with. Also, in Toshi's story, the mask maker, the hunter, and the warrior, they all look like they gave up. Like, we didn't see them in the end, like, unlike Adira and Taro's, you kind of saw like the person, which was them, that you fought. Like, I feel like they could have wrapped that up a little bit better, of kind of like how the village was going through it, when did it happen, a little bit. I felt like they did explain it, but in a brief manner, that you would just assume certain things, and it would be like, well, they just stayed there and a lot of people died. Did all the people die, or did a lot of people die when the corruption blasts came out? I kind of think that that's important. Like, how many people were still there? When you get to the aspect of Toshi, when you're doing his spirit mail thing, you could see that there was a decent amount of villagers. But did they die before? Like I don't know. Like, I think that's just something that I would just be curious. Even if they were to do Kenna Part 2 and stick in this area, which I don't suggest that they do that, because it just seem weird. I think that if they make a Kenna Part 2, it should be a completely different area, her next village or town that she's exploring, and possibly with these same powers, but done to a different degree. Yeah, maybe that. And if not, leave Kenna right where it is, and then just make another game similar to it, same graphic fidelity. And if they want to keep making short games, that's fine too. You don't always have to have these long blockbusters. I think that, like I said, a $40 game that's several hours of gameplay, even if you don't want to do the side stuff, I think is pretty good. I think that that's a relatively really good game, especially if you're playing a movie that lasts that long, you know, and you go to the movie theaters, you're still paying like what, like 15, maybe, even if it's 15 for about 2 hours, right? I heard that the IGN review that I heard that I had to cut off because I thought that the game wasn't out, they said it was 9 hours, right? So even if you did $15 for 2 hours, you know, you're still kind of coming up, you know, you're coming up pretty good, I think, in my personal opinion. YFO's in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel about Kena, Bridge of Spirits, based on my gameplay or another review or gameplay that you guys saw. Is this a game that you guys would be interested in buying? Is this a game that you would like to see made more often? Obviously, it's, like I said, Pixar cartoony kind of graphics engine here. Would you prefer them not to make these games and still go with the more hyper realistic people kind of thing, like not like cartoony? Would you prefer it to be like that? Would you want this game to be longer? Did you think this game was too long and maybe they should have shortened it up a little bit or something like that? Should this game have been $60? I'm kidding. Nobody will ever say, I want to pay more money for this game. And yeah, I think that this game could be better. So I don't think this is like a 10 out of 10 or anything like that. It's not getting, I don't think the game is like a game of the year, but it's definitely a really, really, really good game. And I think that it's a great stepping stone for Ember Labs. I think that they could do a lot with the information from this game. And I think that they did a really good job on this. I keep saying they keep doing a good job. I mean, they did. It was phenomenal. It was a really good run through. And I definitely suggest playing it on expert and not on the easier modes to get the full effect of the game, to actually, I feel like, personally enjoy the game a little bit better than to just have everything at your disposal. And the game is not that difficult that you need that much handicap to kind of get through it. I think that that's something that you would put into another game entirely that has way more jumps and hoops and scoops, that you have to be using a bunch of abilities all the time. Most of the time you're really just good R1 and R2 in it out. And if you want to use an ability to deal some more damage, you can do that, but you don't need that much handicap, in my personal opinion. But that's M.F.O, and hey, now you know. Just remember that every day at the Kashino is your lucky day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.